It's official. I cannot stop playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I realize that I'm pretty late to the party on this one. I mean, the game was released all the way back in February, and it received rave reviews and near universal praise. However, I had a couple of reservations about what I saw in those reviews, and had plenty of other stuff to play at the time, so initially, I passed on it. But I'm here now, and I've spent the last 2 weeks enthralled by this title. It's a special game for a lot of reasons, but the more I play, the more I realize that its secret sauce, the reason that it's so damn good, is actually something very, very specific. And it's something that few other games, if any at all, actually have. Before I get into what that secret sauce is though, I just want to say thanks for clicking on my video, thanks for being here, and if you like this content, please be sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button down in the right corner. It really would mean a lot to me. I release videos on a weekly basis, and I would love to share those with more people going forward. So please, like and subscribe. Alright, now with all that out of the way, let's talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Now like I said at the top, there are a lot of things that make this game great. For one, it is the best looking video game that I have ever played, stealing the title from Assassin's Creed Shadows in my book. Part of the reason I got this game was because I heard it was one of the best titles at taking advantage of the PS5 Pro, and oh boy does it not disappoint. My capture setup doesn't begin to do it justice, so don't let the footage on the screen fool you, but this game runs like a dream on the Pro. No choosing between a graphics or a performance mode here, just one mode that runs flawlessly at 1440p and 60 frames per second. No hiccups, no frame drops, no pop-in. This feels like the epitome of next-gen gaming. Additionally, the story and the writing, they're fantastic. Henry is a lovable, endearing protagonist, and every dialogue option is a treat and something that I legitimately look forward to as I play. The characters are likable and memorable, and the writing has gotten more than a couple audible laughs from me thus far. Even speaking as someone who didn't play the first game, I've really been loving the story on display here. And yet, even with those two feathers in its cap, and its many, many other strengths, I think the one thing that makes this game truly special can be boiled down to one simple statement. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is the perfect blend of realism and fun. Let me explain. The way I see it, all adventure/RPG games can be separated into two camps. The first camp wants to provide as realistic and engrossing of an experience as possible, while the other throws all that out the window, with its only goal being to provide the player with as much fun as possible. Now typically, I tend to favor the latter. Granted, I haven't played it since it was released, so maybe I would feel differently these days, but I remember being very turned off by Red Dead Redemption 2 when it was released back in 2018. This game, of course, being a very obvious member of that first camp of games. I remember I played it for probably around 20 hours, really hoping that it would finally click since I loved the first game so much, but ultimately I was turned off by the tedium and various systems I had to pay attention to. It just went too far into the realism side of things for me. All of Arthur's animations were too damn slow, and I hated having to keep him full of food and tend to his hygiene and all that nonsense. I respected the realism that it was shooting for, but it got to the point where I really just wanted to play the video game, and it felt like I wasn't doing nearly enough of that. Like I said, I've always preferred the RPGs that put the fun before the realism. I mentioned on my channel before that modern Bethesda RPGs like Skyrim and Fallout 3 are some of my favorite games of all time, and I think they're great examples of this fun over realism formula. Sure, those RPGs do paint intricate worlds where your decisions shape your adventure and people's perception of you, but they're also largely unconcerned with pesky things like realism. I mean, if you're getting your ass kicked in battle in Skyrim, you can just pause the game, have your character eat 30 cheese wheels, and in the blink of an eye, boom, you're good to go. Not the most realistic thing in the world, but like I said, those games are largely unconcerned with those things, and I think they're all the better for it. The fun factor is more important than anything in those titles. Now to bring things back to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This was one of my biggest reservations before I started playing, and partly why I held off for so long. I had heard that this was a hardcore RPG with deep systems and those intricate levels of realism that typically turn me off. And it turns out that most of my concerns on this front were valid. This game is hyper realistic in a way that typically I don't mesh with, and yet it feels different here. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 mixes that realism with good old-fashioned video game fun perfectly. Let's start with what seems to be one of the most divisive aspects of this game, the combat. To put it simply, the combat is hard as hell. I've been playing for around 20 hours now, and I still feel like I get my ass kicked in most encounters. This isn't your typical video game RPG, where you just waltz up to a bandit camp outnumbered 10 to 1, just whip out your sword and go to town. No, the combat here is more realistic and grounded than maybe any game I've ever played. Even a one-on-one sword fight in this game is intense as hell. You have to read your opponent's movements, manage your stamina, wait for the right opening to strike. It all feels as challenging and brutal and sweaty as you would expect a sword fight to feel in real life. Find yourself outnumbered 2 or 3 to 1 though, and you better turn and run because you are gonna get your ass kicked. It's funny, the game tells you in an early tutorial that fighting when outnumbered is basically suicide. And I remember seeing that and rolling my eyes, thinking it was classic video game tutorial speak, and that I would easily be able to wail on 5 bandits at once if needed. But no, absolutely not. Henry is a dude with a sword. That's it. So it makes sense that you'd have to pick your spots carefully, and you can't just waltz into an enemy camp and expect things to go well for you. And it's true, in some games having to have such a cautious approach to combat would bother me, but it worked for me almost immediately here. Even if I still feel like I barely know what I'm doing when it comes to combat, it makes those moments when I do succeed feel so worth it and oh so satisfying. I remember doing one mission where I had to save a guy's horse from a camp of bandits. Upon rolling up to that camp, I realized that I was outnumbered 5 to 1 and proceeded to get killed for 20 minutes before I realized I was going to need to try something different. I decided to go full stealth mode, sneaking around the camp, leering guys away from the others and choking them out, before finally I was able to beat 2 guys in a sword fight and steal the horse and get the hell out of there. I'm making this sound way easier than it was. This was like over an hour of deaths, close calls, trial and error, and reloading saves before I finally bolted off. And as frustrating as it was at times, completing that one simple mission felt like one of the most rewarding moments I've had in gaming this year. If Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 didn't embrace realism with its combat system, and had just let me stroll into that bandit camp and lay waste to everyone with my sword in 5 minutes, like I'm used to in other games, well, it just would not have had the same effect on me. This carries over into the game's progression as well. Typically when I get into an RPG, I obsess over character builds, looking up which perks are most beneficial for the build I'm going for, which ones I can skip, etc. In the early hours of my KCD2 playthrough though, I was struggling so much just to survive that I didn't even bother looking into the most optimized build. So many perks seemed like necessities to just help me get past my next enemy encounter that I scooped them up as soon as I could. The difficulty and realism of the game go a long way in making each level up and each new perk feel hugely important, and it all adds up to be an incredibly rewarding experience. The realism and struggle perpetuates all aspects of the game though, not just combat. I thought for sure I was going to be annoyed by having to keep Henry well rested, well fed, and well bathed, but to be honest, I found in most cases it only adds to the experience. The days seem so long that I feel like I'm able to accomplish everything I want to in them before night begins to fall and I have to find a bed for the night. The beds being plentiful and easily accessible also go a long way here in mitigating the inconvenience. The hunger system is a bit more of a chore to navigate, as Henry seems to get hungry pretty damn frequently, and while I found this to be a bit of a struggle early on when I had basically no food and no money, I found that it was also an avenue for engaging and unique gameplay situations. At one point I was out in the woods deep into a mission, but Henry's hunger spiked and I realized I had no food on me at all. The hunger got to be so bad that Henry began to have dizzy spells, another nice touch of realism, and I had to run back to the nearest town and sneak around homes until I found a pot of soup unattended. I immediately scarfed it down before bolting back into the woods to finish my mission. This doesn't sound like much, but this little organic story of Henry covered in dirt and blood, rolling into town, stealing a family's pot of soup, and then hauling ass back into the cover of the woods not only had me laughing quite a bit, but also made the world and Henry's story feel so much more alive. This damn hunger system that would have pissed me off in so many other games was helping create fun and unique gameplay scenarios and stories that I never would have experienced had the mechanic not existed. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is full of moments like this. Yes, it's a hard game, even brutal at times, and its world and its systems really push back against you as you play, especially in the early hours. And while these sorts of mechanics have turned me off from games in the past, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 strikes the perfect balance. The core gameplay itself is still a lot of fun, despite some tedium, and those organic roadblocks that the game puts you up against always feel fair and rarely frustrating. They might make things more difficult, but overcoming them always feels spectacular, and it makes the struggle feel well worth it. Like I said at the beginning of this video, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is unlike anything I've ever played. It's an RPG experience that leans so far into the realism side of things, but manages to do so without sacrificing any of the fun. And that is one hell of an accomplishment. Thanks for watching.